Have you ever wondered how to become a private investigator? If so, then this video is for you. Welcome to the PI Guide, tips, tricks, and advice for professional private investigators just like you. My name is John Morris. I am a licensed professional private investigator in Colorado. So you have been wondering, how do I become a private investigator? This is one of those huge questions regarding the PI profession, and believe me, it's not easily answered. However, I am going to do my best to try to answer it for you. The very first thing you need to consider if you want to be a private investigator are the laws and the requirements in your state. Yep, that's right. The vast majority of states here in the United States require private investigators, private detectives, detective agencies, and investigation agencies to be licensed. The details for each state varies a lot. However, there are some similarities in most states. Now, I have compiled a comprehensive list to assist you as you search for the requirements of your state. I will put a link to that list down below this video so you can explore and investigate your state's requirements. As for the states that do not require private investigator licensing, I will discuss each of those in more detail here in just a little bit. As a general rule, most states will require an extensive, comprehensive background check to be conducted on you, the PI applicant. Usually this background check includes an FBI fingerprint background and a background through your state's Bureau of Investigation, such as the CBI or the Colorado Bureau of Investigation here in Colorado. Now, there's also some homework and some studying that you're going to have to do, folks. Most states require some level of testing for private investigators. Some of these tests can be very arduous and very difficult. Given that, it is imperative that you study your particular state's requirements well and that you do everything you can to prepare yourself for the test. Now, let me give you a secret tip. Most states have a state PI association, and this would be a good place for you to find study material for your state's PI licensing as well. Most of those associations may have some form of training related to obtaining your PI license, so make sure you check them out. Now, regarding how the test is administered, that is dependent again on the state that you reside in. Some states test online. Some states require you to take your test in person. In some cases, you can take breaks during the testing process, while in other cases, it is a time testing period and you must complete it within that time frame at that moment. As a general rule, testing for your PI licensing and the type of license you are getting is not based on the type of investigations you will be conducting. However, certain specialty areas of investigation may require differing levels of expertise or special licensing depending on the state. Many states also have differing levels of PI licensing based on the experience that you have and other factors. Some states and counties will also require a business license along with a PI license, and most cities will require a business license regardless of licensing requirements for private investigators if you are doing business in that city. Then there is sales tax. Yep, some states and some cities require a sales tax license that you must collect sales tax on your PI services. Now, to clarify, a business license is for where you usually office out of or conduct your day-to-day business from. Your private investigator's license is required for where you will be conducting investigations. And if you need to collect sales tax, you need to know if that is required where you're conducting your investigations, where you're officed at, or both. Okay, let's take a look at the 5 states that don't require any licensing at this particular time. Alaska is number 1 of the 5 states that do not require licensing for private investigators. Alaska does, however, have some cities that require licensing. 2 that come to my mind are Fairbanks and Anchorage. So if you are officed in one of these cities or you're going to conduct any investigations in one of these cities, you need to look at their requirements for their PI licensing. Idaho, number 2 on our list of states that do not require private investigators to be licensed. However, there could be some cities that require licensing in Idaho. So if you live in Idaho, I would highly suggest that you have a conversation with the city that you live in and the cities that you conduct investigations in to see if they require a PI license. Mississippi is state number 3 where no PI licensing requirements are, but you should check the requirements of any cities that you'll be working in. Some may have their own licensing there. South Dakota comes in at number 4 on our list of no PI license requirements by the state. But like with all of the other states, I highly recommend that you check with your local municipalities to see if they require private investigators to be licensed. Wyoming is last, but definitely not least on our list. While Wyoming does not have PI licensing, some cities may, and in fact, I know Cheyenne, Wyoming does have licensing for PIs. Cheyenne has a private detective agency licensing requirement. I myself carry a license in Cheyenne. I do a lot of work here in northern Colorado, and I find myself often crossing over the border and ending up in Cheyenne. Folks, it is imperative that you do your homework. You do your own investigation and see if your city requires licensing. Sometimes this can be done easily just by calling your city hall or your local police department and asking them what the requirements are. And for those states that have licensing, well, you should check city regulations as well, where you will be conducting investigations, as some may very well have their own alongside the state licensing. Yep, some cities have their own PI licensing requirements, even though the state that they are in has a licensing program. Remember also, you may be licensed in one state, but that does not mean you are licensed in a neighboring state. If your investigation takes you into a city that has its own requirements or another state, you may need to be licensed there as well. License reciprocity is not always a given between jurisdictions. Among some of the requirements for being a private investigator are things like insurance and bonds. Yep, most state PI licensing will require you to carry some level of liability insurance or a surety bond or both. Keep in mind with these, liability insurance protects you and your business, while bonds generally protect the consumer, your client. So even if it's not required, it is definitely a very good thing for you to have liability insurance for yourself and for your agency. Now, when you inquire with your state and your local municipalities as to licensing requirements, make sure you also ask about individual licensing and agency licensing. Some jurisdictions have both and some require both. So you need to know which one you should be pursuing. Hey, here are 2 more videos that I made just for you. And remember, folks, stay safe out there.